honourable members and guests. A warm welcome to you all to this meeting of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. Today is the 21st of November 2023, and I am hoping that we will soon reach a quorum at this meeting. I do note at this point only the Honourable America and myself, so we need another member to quorate. Ms. Niekerk, we've only received the one apology, and that was of the Honourable Marais. Have any other members apologized in the meantime?
Chairperson, good afternoon. It was just Member Marais, and then Member Maran is having problems with connectivity at the moment. And that was the only apologies and the information that Member Maran carried over to me that I have at my disposal at the moment. But I am trying to get hold of Member Marais as we speak.
Thank you very much for that. Honourable members, on our agenda today, we've got a briefing by the National Department of Transport on the Marine Pollution Amendment Bill, and I see it also has in its title Prevention of Pollution from Ships. It's B5 of 2022, which is referred to us from the NCOP. Now, we will be briefed by the National Department of Transport, and then thereafter we need to discuss the public participation process that we need to follow in respect of this bill. So I wonder if I could ask the officials from the department just to introduce themselves. I have received a number of names of Ms. Mpondo, Ms. Pena, Mr. Madia, Ms. Ntuli, and then also Ms. Padziri. I do not know whom of you are the senior member and who will be doing the presentation, but if you would be so kind, perhaps just to introduce yourselves and also to state, what your position within the National Department of Transport is. I'll appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to all the members of the committee. I'm Dumisani Ntuli, and I'm the Chief Director responsible for Maritime Policy and Legislation with the National Department of Transport. And we will be leading the presentation, and Mr. Klo Marvin Matala will be making the actual presentation. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction, Mr. Ntuli, and a warm welcome to this meeting in the Western Cape. I don't know from where you have joined, and whether being responsible for maritime policy, whether you are able to be close to the sea. Quite often we find that, unfortunately, you need to be in Gauteng. Then I also want to say thank you very much to our support staff. I note the presence of Advocate Andre Leroux, our legal advisor. Our procedural officer's voice you've already heard, Ms. Niekerk. Then we cannot proceed without the support of Ms. Nomfundo Mshumpela. And then thank you also to our IT staff, without whom support we would not have been able to proceed. Honourable members, I've introduced myself, Andrikus van der Westhuizen, privileged to be chairing the Standing Committee. And may I hand over to the other members who have now joined, and I do note that we are quorate at this point in time. Honourable America.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, all. My name is Derek America. I'm a member of the committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kayla Murray. I'm a member of the committee.
Thank you. And as I've said, a warm welcome to you as well, but a particular welcome to our guests. May I then ask that perhaps if there are no other members online, I do note our NCOP liaising officer's presence as well. Mr. Cleophas, thank you very much for joining, and also from IT's side, Mr. Hassam. So now over to the Department of Transport. Thank you very much, and please, we're looking forward to this presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair. If I could just again join in. My name is Dumisani Ntuli. Well, I originate from a coastal province of KwaZulu-Natal. That's where I was born and bred. But before I left the province a couple of years, many years ago, I had no real understanding of the maritime sector, although all what we knew was going to the beach and enjoying the cool breeze from the ocean. But I started my transport or my public service career down there in the Western Cape, and that would be somewhere in 1996. And I still did not deal with maritime. So I only actually was introduced to the maritime sector only when I was in Pretoria, which is which is very interesting. So anyway, so thank you once again for the opportunity. So we will be making the presentation, and as I've indicated that the main presentation will be made by Mr. Marvin Matala, who will take the members through the presentation. But mine is just to make a very quick introduction that this bill, as you would show, is a very important step that the Republic needs to take in closing the gap in us giving full effect to the international agreement in the form of the Marine Pollution Prevention Convention, which South Africa is party to. And with these amendments, we would then complete the whole package of the annexes that form the convention. And as it is required by Section 2 and 3 of the Constitution, we have to then incorporate these annexes so that they would be part of our law, and by extension, we will then be able to enforce the provisions. So, with your permission, I would want to then request Mr. Marvin Matala to make the presentation. I understand that there is a presentation which was shared by the Secretariat, and I'm not sure whether he will be sharing from his side, or the Secretariat of the committee would flight the presentation. So I'll leave it to Mr. Matala to take the committee through now. Mr. Matala, please.
Thank you, and a warm welcome to you, Mr. Matlala. Mr. Matlala, I believe you would have been given rights to be able to share your screen with us, if that is the easiest option for you.
Yes, I've been given an opportunity to share the screen with you. And
we do note your screen. You may want to just go over to presentation mode, but yes, we do see your screen.
Okay, yes, I've no, thank you, Chair. Thank you, honourable members. As Mr. Ntuli introduced me, I'm Marvin Matala. I'm Assistant Director, Maritime Policy Development and Legislation within the National Department of Transport. My presentation today will be divided into the background, objectives of the bill, the benefits of the incorporation of MAPOL, Annex 4 and Annex 6, proposed amendments, consultation, and then followed by recommendations.
Mr. Matlala, thank you very much. I wonder if you could do press F5 on your screen, whether it would then go into full presentation mode, or do you prefer to see on the left-hand side the upcoming slides?
I prefer it this way. I don't know. Are you comfortable with it that side?
Okay, no, then it's fine. What you could also do is there at the top of your screen. You will see, yeah, just to the left of that, not minimize, but to the left. Yeah, if you click on that one, it will also make it a little bit bigger on our screens.
All right. Okay.
So, auto hide ribbon, there it is.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Ah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Is it okay?
It's fine.
Yes. Yes, the slide you see in front of you, with this slide, we are just trying to create an overview or to demonstrate progress that we have done so far in as far as giving international maritime organization is concerned, and as far as giving them effect, especially the ones that deal with the marine pollution. If you look at the first box at the far left, the top corner, which says Marine Pollution Prevention, MAPOL. So IMO, which is International Maritime Organization, in order to address marine pollution at sea, developed the so-called MAPOL Convention, 1973. MAPOL is the international convention for the prevention of pollution from ships, but it is popularly referred to as MAPOL. So when MAPOL convention came into being, or before I even continue, from now on throughout the presentation, I'll refer the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships as MAPOL Convention. Please bear with me for that. So when it came into being, MAPOL came with 6 technical annexes, and those annexes each address a potential source of pollution from ships. Maybe quickly, Annex 1 of MAPOL dealt with regulations for the prevention of pollution by oil. Annex 2 dealt with regulations for the control of pollution by noxious substances in bulk. And Annex 3 dealt with the prevention of pollution by harmful substances carried in packaged form, while Annex 4 dealt with the prevention of pollution by sewage from ships. Annex 5, prevention of pollution by garbage from ships. And Annex 6, prevention of air pollution from ships. Now, South Africa, having ratified MAPOL Convention, thereby complying with Section 231, subsection 1 and 2 of the Constitution, went on to domesticate the same. And it domesticated MAPOL Convention, that is to say, it incorporated the provisions of MAPOL into our national law through the act called Marine Pollution Prevention of Pollution from Ships Act, 1986. Thereby complying with the provisions of Section 231, subsection 4 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Now, when Marine Pollution Prevention of Pollution from Ships Act came into being in 1986, the annexes, Annex 1, 2, 3, and 5 were incorporated into it. And Annex 4, for some reasons, was not part of that act. And Annex 6 was not part of that act because it became at a later stage in 1997 as a tool to amend the 1973 convention. So now, our intention here is to incorporate Annex 4 and Annex 6 of MAPOL, which are at the moment not forming part of the 1986 Act. So in actual fact, we are amending the 1986 Act to incorporate Annex 4 and Annex 6. Annex 4 of MAPOL deals with the sewage, and Annex 6 deals with the air pollution from ships. Now, moving on to the background of the presentation, South Africa is a party to the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1973, as amended by the Protocol of 1978. When the convention was adopted by the IMO in 1973, As I've already said, 5 annexes form part of it, and in 1997, the IMO adopted a protocol. Through the 1997 protocol, the 1973 International Convention was amended to include Annex 6 to the existing 5 annexes. Now, moving on to the objectives of the amendment bill. The bill, as I've already said, intends to incorporate MAPOL Annex 4 and Annex 6 into the Marine Pollution Prevention of Pollution from Ships Act of 1986. MAPOL Annex 4 regulates the activities for the treatment and safe disposal of sewage from ships. Now, as you would know, ships calling in our port carry sometimes a large number of people, including the crew. So this annex regulates how sewage resulting from that voyage or travel does not damage our sea. It does so, among others, by obligating ships to have within them or to be equipped with sewage holding tanks, to be equipped with sewage treatment plant systems, and also surveying those ships so that they can be given the International Sewage Pollution Prevention certificate. That is confirmation that the seas will not be at risk. And it also, Annex 4 also obligates member states to have sewage reception facilities at their ports. MAPOL Annex 6 is the main global instrument that addresses ship energy efficiency management and GHG emissions. Now, let me move to the benefits of the incorporation of MAPOL Annex 6 and Annex 4 into our law. Restricting the discharge of sewage will reduce the nutrients loads caused by sewage discharge from passenger ships into the sea. This will also result in the efficient prevention, reduction, and control of marine pollution from the air or indirectly through the air. And it will ensure efficient preservation of the marine environment through the complete elimination of pollution by oil and other harmful substances, as well as minimizing the accidental discharge of such substances. Ships will now require to use fuel with no more than 0.50% sulfur content or use approved fuel treatment systems called scrubbers. Now, let me move directly to the amendment that we are effecting into the 1986 Act. So we are amending Section 1 of the Principal Act. And the gaps that we are trying to address there is that we will include Annex 4 and Annex 6 in the definition of the convention. So once those amendments are effected, now the new definition of convention will read as follows. It will read to mean the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1973, as amended by the Protocol of 1978, adopted by the Intergovernmental Maritime Consultative Organization in London on 17 February 1978, including any annexes, regulations, and protocols which are issued in terms thereof and set out in the schedule. So now the benefit of this amendment was that reference to convention will now mean the treaty in its entirely inclusive of all those annexes. We are also amending Clause 2 of the Principal Act. So the gaps that we are trying to close there or trying to address is the issue of absence of the convention into South African law. When amended, it will read as follows. Subject to the provisions of this Act, that is subsection 1, the convention has the force of law in the Republic. Subsection 2, the minister shall, as soon as practicable after the entry into force for the Republic of any amendment to the Convention, amend the schedule by notice in the Gazette to reflect such amendments. So how are we going to benefit from this amendment? By enacting domestic legislation, South Africa will now be in a position to give full effect to the treaties. We are also amending Section 2 of the Principal Act. And the challenges that we are addressing there is the absence of the technical standards. So when amended, those amendments will provide the authority to issue technical standards for marine pollution from ships on such matters as may be prescribed by regulation. So it will read as follows when amended. Subsection 1, the authority may issue technical standards for marine pollution from ships on such matters as may be prescribed by regulation. Subsection 2, a technical standard shall have the force of law. Okay. Now, the benefit that we'll enjoy when we have amended this section, this will enable the authority to enforce compliance with technical standards so published in the manner as provided for in the Act. We are also amending Section 3 of the Principal Act, and this is to address the absence of regulations for Annex 4 and Annex 6. And this is to extend the Minister of Transport's power to make regulations relating to the prevention of air pollution from ships, the prevention of pollution by sewage from ships, and any other incidental administrative procedural matters. Now, the Minister will be empowered to make the following regulations when the Principal Act is amended. Regulations relating to the prevention of air pollution from ships, prevention of pollution by sewage from ships, removal of endocrine disrupting substances from sewage streams before it is treated and released, permitted types of emissions abatement equipment, requirements for the disposal of waste generated by the mitigation equipment, accredited laboratories eligible to test the fuel samples and the cost, designation of emissions control areas, enforcement of protective measures, in particular sensitive sea areas and other special areas, and generally any other auxiliary and incidental administrative or procedural matters that are necessary to prescribe for the proper implementation or administration of this Act. So these regulations will give a clear guidance on how to implement the Principal Act. This will be beneficial. Now, we are also amending Clause 4 of the Principal Act by increasing a fine in the event of non-compliance from 500,000 to 10 million, or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 10 years, as this will serve as a deterrence to possible non-compliance. So now it will read as follows when amended. Any person convicted of an offense under subsection 1 shall be liable to a fine not exceeding 10 million, or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 10 years, or to such fine as well as such imprisonment. So South Africa, how will it benefit from this amendment? So South Africa will have been able to translate the zero tolerance of pollution of the marine environment by making non-compliance very costly. So this is to say, this will serve as a deterrent. So we are also amending Clause 5. And the gap that we are trying to close there is the absence of the advisory committee to ensure the implementation of the convention. So this will grant the minister powers that, if exercised, will be instrumental to the proper implementation of the bill. So when amended, it will read as follows. The minister may A, appoint an advisory committee to advise him or her in regard to any particular matter dealt with by this Act. B, conclude a cooperative agreement with other states. C, delegate or assign a duty to any official of the department in regard to any matter dealt with by this Act, with the exception of the power to make regulations and the powers contemplated in paragraphs A and B of these sections. So now the benefit will be that the minister will be enabled to ensure the implementation of the convention through cooperation with other parties to the convention. We are also amending the schedule of the Principal Act. So the gap that we are addressing there is the absence of annexes 4 and 6. And the amendment will result in the inclusion of annexes 4 and 6 in the schedule of the Principal Act. So it will read as follows when amended. Schedule to the Principal Act is hereby amended by the addition of Annex 4 and 6, respectively, as provided in the schedule of this Act. So now the benefit is that Annexes 4 and 6 will now form part of the Principal Act. Moving on to consultation. So where have we been before we came before you? So we have consulted South African Maritime Safety Authority, Ports Regulator of South Africa, Department of Environmental, Fisheries and Forestry, Transnet National Ports Authority, academia as well, ship owners, ship associations, economic sectors, investment, employment and infrastructure development cluster, governance, state capacity and institutional development cluster, global and continental affairs committee, international cooperation, trade and security, cabinet, portfolio committee, and as well as the select committee. So lastly, we request the committee to consider this briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matlala, and thank you very much also to your team for all the hard work up to here. We're having steered this successfully through the National Assembly. Honourable members, are there any questions from your side while we have the benefit of the representatives from the Department of Transport with us today? I recognise the Honourable Murray.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few questions from my side. The first question with regards to the annexes 4 and 6 on which impact the bill. If I can just get a bit more clarity in terms of why they were missing and what impact they have on this bill exactly. Then I also wanted to understand whether there were any kind of social impact assessments conducted which informed the contents of the bill. If there were, if they could possibly be shared with us as a committee, and a bit of detail, what did they look at specifically? Chair, then I note the convention, the international convention that was mentioned. What I was curious about was whether there were any opinions or any research done on South Africa's current alignment with South Africa, with the international convention. To put it differently, how do we currently fall short of those conventions and what needs to be amended? On the punitive matters or punitive measures introduced in the bill, I see 10 years imprisonment. I was just curious about in which courts these might be dealt with, against who exactly would be cited for punitive measures, how they would be enforced. I say this because if we're going to imprison a single person, then I wonder if this is more of a civil matter than a criminal matter, but I would just like to understand that a bit more. Then with regards to the powers vested in the minister, the areas that would previously have been dealt with by the bill, how were they administered? Were these powers also vested in the minister? And what is the kind of, and apologies if you need me to repeat any of these questions, I'm happy to. But if we look at international practice in alignment with the convention, how are these new administrative functions that were vesting in the minister through this bill being conducted? Is it also being placed in the hands of the minister? And then lastly, Chair, I was interested in the consultations. What specifically were the outcomes of the consultation with the private sector and industries, and also whether there's been any on-the-ground consultation with communities in coastal areas, fishermen, that sort of thing. Those are my questions for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Murray. Mr. Matlala, my impression on reading the bill is that all new ships need to be, well, above a certain size, need to be fitted either with a holding container for sewage or must have a sewage treatment plant aboard. Now, my impression is that for those that don't have the ability to process their sewage themselves, that sewage will have to be pumped when it visits a port for local, can I call it then, treatment. So my question is just, to what extent are our South African ports equipped to accept raw sewage from liners that may visit our ports? Would it be possible for them to discharge of the sewer in a way that we now expect of them? I don't see any other questions, so with that, back to you, Mr. Matlala.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'll be able to answer one. Is Mr. Nduli still there?
Yes, Mr. Balala. Yes, I'm still here. I'll take a few.
Yes.
Don't worry. You can just take what you can take, and I'll take what remains. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's no. The question with regard to why other annexes were not incorporated into the 1986 Act. So I can be able to answer with regard to Annex 6. Annex 6 came into being later after the convention came into being. So it was an amendment to the convention. So the convention was amended in 1997 in order to include Annex 6. So traditionally the annexes were 5. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll then just take the rest, but also just to deal with Annex 4. Annex 4, probably the facilities in ports when not to the level that they could receive Annex 4 disposals. So you would as well have noticed that in recent times, the port authorities have invested in infrastructure in ports, more particularly to deal with the growing cruise trade in South Africa. The traffic has quite increased. So we've just completed an IMO audit now, which in any way, even without us incorporating this provincial, this annex, we are still required to provide for what is called reception facilities for all of the annexes of MAPOL. So with the non-incorporation, therefore, of 4, Annex 4 then may have been considered by those that were in charge not to be appropriate at that stage. But with the recent, I think with the developments that the country has since the adoption of the other 4 annexes, we are assured that we'll be able to manage the disposal of this kind of disposals. And this as well answers to the chairman's comment relating to the capacity to treat sewerage from ships. There are accredited companies that would be approved by both the Port Authority and as well as the South African Maritime Safety Authority to handle Annex 4 disposals. Now, then going back to the other remaining question, there was a question on the opinion in relation to how the alignment of these international agreements and where the gaps exist and whether there is a program to, whether we know what is missing and whether there's any program that aims to close the gap. Very quick one, the slide that Mr. Matlala showed at the beginning reflected the current status. So where it is green, those are all international agreements, and they are already part of our national law. So that's the green progress we have made up to so far. The colors in amber reflect those that are including these amendments, which are just almost there to be achieved. So the target, as you may have followed in the media, was that IMO in 2023 had dedicated 23 as the year of MARPOL. Because MARPOL as a convention completed 50 years of existence. So all of us have been targeting that at least as a republic, we must demonstrate our commitment to it by adopting all the remaining annexes. And I think the progress that we have made would deliver us right at the door of us giving full effect to MARPOL annexes. And the box in black and white reflect the work that's still outstanding, even when we have turned all the green, all the amber boxes into green, we will still be left with those two boxes, which we already have a program to close. In relation to the punitive measures and by who would be penalized and which courts would hear these matters, in terms of the Admiralty Jurisdiction Regulation Act, all the courts of South Africa can hear maritime cases. So they have been fully empowered to hear maritime cases. And as to who is likely to then appear in this court, these are polluters. These are the ships that are covered by the MARPOL Convention itself, and therefore they will then be liable for the damage that they would cause. There is a sister bill, which is also, I think, it may just be maybe in Mowbray, on its way to the province, which would deal with the oil pollution preparedness and response, which is so critical because in the event that everything fails and we have a spill, how do we deal with it? So that bill incorporates one of the critical IMO convention, which is the Oil Pollution Preparedness Response and Cooperation Bill. And it's been moving in parallel with this one, and hopefully it would reach your shores quite soon, so that we also assist us in giving effect, in the Republic giving effect to it. Now, in terms of what's an international standard, or what is the international practice in relation to the powers that are vested to ministers, yes, these type of powers that were given to the minister, they are in line with the Constitution, and they have been cleared with the state law advisors in relation to them fully qualifying to be secondary legislation, which would give minister the power to make the regulations that are not extra to what the principal act would provide, and the text of the convention and all its annexes and provide for. So they would then have, and also part of that relates to the powers that are given to all the members of the executive to negotiate agreement with other states. And as you'll imagine that this, if we deal with pollution, marine pollution, there are greater chances that it could extend to other jurisdictions, in which case then a cooperative agreement between the Republic and that state that may be impacted from what comes from our waters or what comes from their waters reaches our shores, then the minister has power to enter into those agreements in order to ensure that there is cooperation. The last issue relates to consultation. I must just say, Chairman and the members, that we've benefited a lot from the comments that were received from the provincial government of the Western Cape. That was not only during the drafting stage, but also when this bill served before the Portfolio Committee on Transport, that the Portfolio Committee invited members of the public and including the non-governmental organizations to make submissions. We had such submissions, and we attended to those comments, and the Portfolio Committee on Transport were satisfied that we had addressed, and they have concluded in the manner that the bill is now presented before you. The last comment that I would like to make relates to the constraints that we have, in that because we are dealing with an international agreement, so the international agreement has already been negotiated and agreed to, and the Republic was party to those negotiations. So there's very legal, there's nothing actually that we can change on the text of the convention. And that's why this bill is one of those quick win bills that the Republic can use to give full effect to what it has already agreed to and were part to negotiating. So we are grateful that you have given an opportunity to look into this bill, and we look forward then to your next stage of how you would wish to consider the bill. And I thank you, Chairperson and the members.
Thank you, Mr. Ntuli, and thank you, Mr. Matlala. Honourable members, are there any further questions? I do not see any hands. Mr. Matlala, so and Mr. Ntuli, the next step would then be for us then obviously to invite the public for comments while we're also studying the contents of the bill in detail, and then obviously negotiate or formulate a negotiating mandate to our representatives in the National Council of Provinces. In the absence of any hands and questions from members, may I then ask whether you have any final words or messages to us?
Chairman, I think we do not, but ours is just to thank you for the leadership and the priority that you have given to this bill, and we wait to then interact and obviously through the normal channels receive the mandate of the Western Cape to progress the bill further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ntuli. And yes, I've also noted the possibility that the marine oil pollution amendment bill may also be referred to us in this term. We do find that there's a lot of legislation coming our way, and I do know that there are a number of provinces that have already expressed concerns of whether there would be enough time between now and the anticipated elections of next year to deal with this. I want to give you the assurance that we in the Western Cape, we pride ourselves on our efficiency, on our willingness to bend over backwards, even if it should be needed, and when it's in the best interests of the environment. And being a coastal province, this is something that is really of the utmost importance to us. So be assured that we will give it the necessary attention. We will prioritize this in terms of our work as well. And we're looking forward to being able to engage with the legislation now that it's been referred to us. I do note that Mr. Matlala's microphone is unmuted. Would you also like to share with us a last thought, sir?
No, thank you, Chair.
Good. So thank you very much. Thank you for this. And if there are any questions, obviously, I believe we've got the option to approach you if something should be unclear to us. But thank you very much for that. And you are free to leave this meeting. We will now embark on our discussion regarding the public participation process to be followed, taking into account the limitations on advertisements over the festive period, etc. And I also wish to welcome. I see we've also been joined by the Honourable de Villiers. Honourable de Villiers, thank you very much also for joining us in this meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I struggled to find the link.
And I do note the presence of Honourable Maran as well. Thank you for joining us, Honourable.
Thanks, Chairperson. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone present.
Good. Honourable members, as I've indicated, the next step would now be for us to consider the way in which we want to invite the public to submit any comments that they may have that may influence us in our discussions, and particularly in the mandate that we will be giving to our representatives in the select committee of the NCOP. If I may be so bold, just to put it on the table, I personally am still very much in favor of a printed media, although the circulation numbers may have come down. I believe that is the one record that one would be able to find in libraries in years to come. So if I may ask that we consider advertising, perhaps in Afrikaans and English newspapers. Earlier today, my attention was also drawn to the possibility of advertising in the third Western Cape official language, which is isiXhosa. Then, as you may know, it's a standard practice that we also write letters to stakeholders that we can think of and that we have on a list, stakeholders that may be affected by this legislation, and invite them for comment. And then the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, as you well know, has also got a Facebook page. It's got its own web page. So I would want to propose that we also make use of the social media to bring this under the attention of interested and affected parties. Then we have received a notice earlier today, I think, that the climate change bill is also being referred to us. We will be briefed on that next week on the 29th. And to save costs, we may be able to, as we've done earlier this year, combine in one advertisement these two bills, although they may address different stakeholders. It does save a lot of costs, particularly when it comes to the newspapers, in the sense that, the contact details, the invitation, the emblem of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, all of that do not need to be duplicated in two different advertisements, but all of those words and space can then be shared by these two bills. I recognize the Honourable America.
Thank you, Chairperson. I agree with you, Chairperson, and I think that I would, as we've done in a meeting earlier today, suggest that you and the procedural officer determine the appropriate media platforms, but I agree with the three languages. and the combination of the two pieces of legislation. But that you and the procedural officer identify an appropriate time slot as to when those media advertisements will be published, and the return date for comments and will probably be sometime next year. Thank you, Chair.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that support and those proposals. Honourable Maran.
Thanks, Chairperson. Again, good afternoon. Earlier on, I had some the power outage, and it was impossible for me to log in, but that has been sorted now. I want to second the proposal made by the Honourable America that yourself as Chairperson and the procedural officer, Serene, basically do some work on behalf of this committee and maybe come back to us early next year. But I just wanted to check one thing, Chair, because you have raised basically the public participation process, but also role players who will be affected by this amendment bill. And I think, Chair, this bill does not only deal with votes from South Africans, but also deals with votes who are in South African waters who might found themselves guilty, Chair, in contravention with this bill. How then, Chair, will we inform or make those role players aware of these amendment bill, or, Chair, from a national level, whether they have a process, Chair, to whether it's either engage or to make them aware that there is this process that the South Africans are busy amending this particular bill, which might affect basically international ships that basically will be in our waters and then make themselves guilty. Chair, I just wanted to check how will we deal with that process. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Maran. Yes, please assist. But my thoughts in this regard were the following. The first one is, there are companies that in the shipping industry that, forward freight, that sell tickets to cruise line ships, because it's particularly your bigger cruise liners that I believe might be affected. And I think that would be a way of getting the message to them. But also, I think we quite often make use of networks whereby perhaps the forwarding company would be forwarding this message to the owners of cruise liners, etc. So that is one way. The second thing that I believe puts my mind at ease is the fact that this is not a unique South Africa piece of legislation, but that this is actually an international convention. And we are just getting in line with what has already been agreed to at those international conventions regarding the pollution, because I think as we've heard, this pollution is obviously not then limited to South African ports or South African coastal waters. It is something which is internationally being addressed. And I just said to myself, I think there are some bays and some areas like the Mediterranean and some of the bays within the Mediterranean that do not have the coastal currents that we have, and for whom the pollution of the marine environment may be an even more important or more astute concern. So I do believe that even if people then don't hear from this piece of legislation from us in the Western Cape, they will probably also get the message internationally or from our other coastal provinces in the southernmost tip of Africa. Good. Just to come back, Ms. Nikak, would you like to come in terms of how you would propose us to address the issue of informing the public of their opportunity to comment? And have you done a few counts in terms of what the possible due date for the closing of such public comments may be, taking into account the festive season? Over to you, Ms. Nikak.
Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of the print media, I would suggest that the advertisement be placed by the 2nd of December. So from the 2nd of December to the 15th of December, and I'm excluding weekends, that would be 9 days. And then from the 15th of January up until the end of January, that would basically be 21 days that the advertisement would have run in the newspaper, excluding holidays and weekends. So my proposal for a closing date would be the first week in February. Having said that, Chairperson, in terms of this bill, there's no program available from the Select Committee. So we at this stage do not know when negotiating mandates are due. If we had that date, we could actually work towards that date, making sure submissions have been received and commented on by the National Department, but we do not have that date as yet. In terms of creating public awareness, members all mentioned print media. An indication of cost, combining the two bills into one advertisement. If the committee decides to go into the Burger weekend edition and the weekend August, that would be a cost of approximately 32,000 Rand. But remember, that's just English and Afrikaans. isiXhosa, I will have to get a quotation of what that would cost in maybe a publication like Vukani if the committee decides it wants to publish in that publication. And then, Chair, you mentioned social media. Yes, this bill, I would suggest that we upload it onto WCPP's website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram pages as well. And we've also have a tagging mechanism where I would identify potential stakeholders. We would write letters to the affected stakeholders. And then on our social media platform, they would also be tagged every time the advertisement appears on Facebook or Instagram. And then the committee just also to remember that we do have our public education and outreach section, who's also available to assist with creating awareness, and they also could assist in facilitating submissions. And then if members feel that the committee requires research to be conducted on any aspect of the bill, just forward that to me. Our research section will then undertake that. And then Advocate Leroux is on the platform if the committee decides that it needs any legal advice pertaining to the amendment bill. Thank you, Chair. I think that's all from my side.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nikak. Honourable members, any comments? Can I take a lack of comment then as concurrence? I do note first the Honourable De Villiers was first, and then Murray, and then America. Honourable De Villiers.
Chairman, yeah, just a comment, and then maybe for clarity, I think the Honourable Murray did allude to it. The imprisonment on clause 5. We would just love to know. I would love to know more on that. How it's gonna work? Who's gonna? Where they're gonna be? Who's gonna do the
Arrest?
The arrest and all those kind of things, and where do we gonna keep and see that this thing is working? You know, although it's an international thing, is that we don't we don't know if everybody everywhere has the same standards. And how do we know that it's been implied? So that is one thing I would love, maybe for Ms. Nicker to do some research on.
Thank you. Ms. Honorable Murray.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just to the previous question, I think maybe if we can rather lighten Ms. Nekak's load and request that information from the department. And then secondly, Chair, just in terms of resolutions, if it's possible that we can receive the annexures as well as just an accompanying explanation of why they were missing and what they contribute to the bill. If the department can also share with us any social impact assessments that they did, just so we can understand the timeline beforehand, and then the opinion on the alignment of conventions that they alluded to, if they could share that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable America.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to latch on to what Honourable de Villiers was saying in terms of which court will have jurisdiction if a pollution occurred within our waters. Is it the nearest province, coastal province? Their court will have jurisdiction over the prosecution of the matter. And perhaps, I don't know if it is off the Quebec, whether their courts will have jurisdiction, or KZN, or wherever. But that aside, Chairperson, I think that in terms of the flighting of advertisements, given the lack of detail as to when negotiating mandates need to be formulated, I'm not so sure whether flighting of advertisements from the 2nd of December till the 15th, and then again in January till the end of January, would be necessary, because it is extremely costly. And maybe the advertisements could be placed in January, but we could then proceed with all of the other non-monetary advertising or awareness processes like Facebook and X and the website, that we can proceed with this year, and then perhaps the printed advertisements as from next year. I'm just, thinking about costs, and that could be possibly considered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable America. My impression is that the printed advertisements normally only appear once. And I'm just concerned that, if we do not give at least a 21 working day lead time from when the advertisement appear until the closing date, that we may run into certain risks. But since Advocate Leroux is on, perhaps he could just assist us in terms of how we must deal with the festive season, and whether we can advertise before the festive season with a closing date after the festive season. Advocate, would you like to come in, please?
Chairperson, thank you. Public involvement is not really my lane, if I can put it that way. I'm comfortable with the advice the committee received from Ms. Niekerk. I don't have anything to add to that. I agree that in as much as we don't know by when the negotiating mandates are due, maybe it would be beneficial to get the advertisements out sooner rather than later, so that we know we gave a substantial period of notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that input, and I hope that also address any questions that members may have. Honourable members, in line with that, could that then be the resolution? And there was a proposal that the the final decision as to closing dates, etc., be left to the procedural officer and the chair of this committee. I trust that that carries the support of all the members. I do see a thumbs up there from the Honourable America as well. Good, thank you very much then, honourable members. That deals then with that item on our agenda for today. The next item that we need to deal with is then the draft committee minutes. It is for consideration and adoption. First, just for correctness, Ms. Niekerk did circulate the minutes of the 17th, the 19th, the 25th of October. And on the 25th of October, there were actually two meetings, one at 9 o'clock and one at 9:30. Those minutes were circulated. Honourable members, are there any changes that you would like to propose to those? No comments, no changes. Are you happy then for me to put this for the consideration of the committee and possible adoption?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I propose that we adopt the minutes.
Thank you very much. And I do see a thumbs up. I do see a hand from Honourable Moran as well.
It's a thumbs up, Chair. It's
happy to support. Thank you very much for that. Then the next is the consideration of the draft committee report on the annual report discussion of the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning and Cape Nature. Ms. Niekerk, you also circulated that committee report. I believe it might be on hand and would be quite quick for you to just flight it.
I'll do so in a second, Chair.
It's a brief document, and I thought it might be just that's it. You can scroll down. Honourable members, that has been the report. It's in the standard form. Or I do see a hand, Honourable America. Would you support the adoption of that?
Yes, Chairperson, I propose that we adopt the report.
Thank you. Honourable Murray.
Seconded, Chair.
Much appreciated, honourable members, and much appreciated, Ms. Niekerk, for your hard work. Can we have the last report for today? That is the report on the annual report discussion of the Department of Agriculture and CASIDRA. There you have it. And if I may say so, honourable members, as usual, excellent work by Ms. Niekerk in this regard. Any thoughts on whether we can adopt the report? Thank you for your consideration, honourable members. Can I have a proposer? Honourable Moran.
Chair, thanks. Chair, yes, I went through this report earlier, and the report is a true reflection of the meeting, and therefore, Chair, I propose that we adopt.
Thank you so much. And the hand of Honourable America. Honourable America lowered his hand. Honourable De Villiers.
Yes, I support it.
Thank you. Duly considered and adopted. Thank you very much, honourable members. Honourable members, under general, perhaps if I could just ask Ms. Niekerk. She reminded me that we actually earlier already indicated the possibility of an oversight visit to the Karoo area, and that she even included that in our business plan, and even after that, we still were left with a credit to our budget. Ms. Nikak, perhaps if you could just quickly take us, not take us through it, but just confirm that our decision today to advertise and so on, it would be funded. There is money available for that. Am I right?
That is correct. I confirm, Chairperson, that for legislation, there's a separate pool of money that has been set aside. I'm not sure how much it is, but the advertisements would definitely be covered. All matters relating to legislation would take priority now. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable de Villiers, is that a legacy hand?
Sorry, it's a legacy hand, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, honourable members, I was hoping that you would be able to just guide us in terms of, you know, what projects you might be interested in the Karoo. We have been up the West Coast. We've been to the southern part of the province, but I think to a large extent we have not really covered the vast area of the Karoo. And I do note the hand of the Honourable America, then Maran, and then Murray.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. Chair, at one of our previous meetings, we deliberated on a possibility of, doing some oversight visit to Maritzburg, because there's money being appropriated in the budget for projects in Maritzburg, and it's part of the province that really visited by committees, and perhaps it would be a good idea if we could consider going there, and perhaps any other place in the Karoo, just to let the people of Maritzburg know that they're part of the Western Cape, and then we are interested in what they do, and it's a bit far, but they're also residents of the Western Cape. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Maran.
Thanks, Chair. I don't have a problem with the proposal by the Honourable America, but remember, Chair, I think in one of the last meetings we have spoken about the nature reserve that's in the Beaufort West area, and I think at that stage, Chair, when you mentioned it to us, Chair, and I think it's a national reserve. We have never compared basically a national reserve versus basically what we have under the guidance of Cape Nature. That's the one, Chair. On the one of Maritzburg, Chair, and I know 2 years, plus minus 2 years back, specifically when it comes to Maritzburg, there is a group of small farmers, Chair, farming with livestock, and they've also been affected by the locust. Chair, at that stage, Chair, it was mostly the Northern Cape, but also part of the Western Cape, which is Maritzburg, close to the Northern Cape, also been affected. Chair, if part of this visit, if we can include those small farmers and how locusts have affected them during that particular time. Thanks.
Thank you. And then Honourable Murray.
Thank you, Chair. I'm intrigued by visiting a place named after my own surname. I agree, a visit to Maritzburg could be an interesting one, noting that Elsenburg gave 1.5 million for the garlic project in Maritzburg, and with the possibility of visiting farmers that were assisted during the last drought. We could also hear about the assistance that agriculture in the Western Cape gave to fight locust swarms. But yeah, just another proposal is that my own committee is going to be dealing with the upstream bill shortly, and one of the communities that we are looking at visiting is Beaufort West or Central Karoo more broadly. And so perhaps another area to explore is the environmental impact of fracking in the Central Karoo area, knowing that it is it has been looked at in the past for fracking, but of course noting that there are environmental concerns related to it. So perhaps an area to explore, or perhaps an area that our two committees could jointly collaborate on. From our side as a committee, we were looking at doing public participation there, but you know, 2 birds, 1 stone might not be the worst idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. Wonderful proposals that have emanated from this discussion. And I think it gives Ms. Nikak clear guidance as to what she can look at to include in such a program. So putting the program together, the budget, as I've indicated, there's already been budget set aside for that. I think the biggest challenge would be for her to find dates in the 2024 calendar early in the year. Now, in the past, we've also had what we call cluster visits. I do not see them or dates set aside for a cluster visit, but perhaps if we do get to such a conversation, perhaps honourable members, we can ask that we include that. And I very much like the idea that Honourable Murray raised of you know, being able to, now in an environmental committee meeting, we don't speak of 1 stone and 2 birds, but trying to achieve more with less money. I think that is always what we try to achieve. Can I just ask then? Thank you very much for those proposals. Any other matters, honourable members, that you would like to deal with under resolutions or general? I do not see any hands. May I then just ask Ms. Nikak, just a reminder, I think, of next week's meeting. This will be, can I call it, an extraordinary meeting at 4 o'clock on the 29th for the climate change bill. The climate change bill has just this week been referred to us. Ms. Nikak, perhaps if you would just like to come in and just confirm, do we have, for example, a timeline for that from the NCOP?
Chairperson, yes, we in actual fact do have a program from the NCOP regarding the dates. The NCOP Select Committee will be briefed on the bill on the 28th of November. And the Select Committee has invited our Standing Committee to attend that briefing because it's a briefing with all provinces. However, we are unable to attend because on that day at 10 o'clock there is a house sitting, hence me requesting the briefing the day after the Select Committee's briefing. But in terms of the climate change bill, negotiating mandates are due on the 12th of March 2024. And the final mandate is due on the 19th of March. So at least we have a time frame that we can work towards it, you know, and then we can determine by when is the cutoff for submission to allow the committee enough time to actually go through those submissions and the responses from the national department. So negotiating mandate, climate change bill, 12th of March, Chair.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Nikak. We do know that that first term is going to be a busy one. Mr. Cleofas or any of the other support staff, any input from your side? Nothing?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've been in contact with the National Department regarding the briefing for next week's meeting. So as soon as we get correspondence from them, I will let the procedural officer, Ms. Nikak, know, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you, Chair.
And we trust that they will work after 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes,
That's normally the office end of their office day. So thank you very much for that. Any other members, any other issues before I close this meeting that you would like to raise? So, honourable members, this is not the last time that we will be seeing each other next week, and I think the 29th is it the Wednesday, Ms. Nikak?
Pardon, Chair?
The 29th?
The 29th is a Wednesday, yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's a Wednesday.
So that will probably be our last meeting for the year.
No, Chairperson.
Oh,
Two
yeah,
more
sorry,
after,
sorry,
only
the
two
other-
more after that, the adjustment appropriation bill.
good. Indeed. Sorry, well, my mind slipped. I thought these are the last meetings. I almost want to say extraordinary meetings that that we need to deal with. Good. So thank you very much, honourable members. With that, I want to say thank you for your participation. Thank you for joining us, and I wish you everything of the best. Looking forward to seeing you again then next week. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.